I've driven about $2 million in client sales from organic content alone, almost exclusively from one channel on LinkedIn. Just posting, replying to people that engage with my content, and then finding other people, like building a community that I can go engage with their content and essentially get some extra reach and some impressions. But there comes a point where you start asking, like, is this worth my time? Right? Is this the best place that I should be spending my time? Maybe it's an algorithm change. Just a few weeks ago, we had something where our traffic doubled or tripled, and then, 2 weeks later, it gets cut in half, and we're not changing much. So maybe you just get tired of the volatility, or maybe you just get tired of being on social media. Like for me, a big part of it was just looking at my time audit and saying, I don't want to do this as much anymore, right? It's not where I want to be spending my time, and it's not why I started a business. I recently hit this point in my business and took a step back and said, there's gotta be a different way. I ran an experiment, and in 9 days, I was able to generate the same results that it would have taken me to generate in a year and a half of working through organic content, right? That posting, engaging, commenting, harvesting strategy. 9 days, I was able to do what took a year and a half before. And the best part is I've got an A/B test, like actual data that I can show you exactly what I did, and you can see the results for yourself. So what I'm gonna do in this video is I'm gonna walk you through what I did, and I'll show you the results. But more importantly, what I'm gonna do is gonna walk you through my thought process and that decision-making process, and I'll give you a handful of questions that you can use to ask yourself, is this time for you to start thinking about adding in paid media to complement what you're doing on organic? Let's dive in. Hey, what's up? I'm Ray Green, former executive turned nomad entrepreneur, and we're going to talk about adding in paid media to an organic strategy. But I'd want to say this first. I am a huge fan of organic content marketing. We've driven almost $2 million in client sales from it, just from one platform. I would argue we are able to monetize organic content marketing as well as almost anybody, okay? And if I had to start over again, it's exactly where I would start. So this video isn't saying don't do organic content marketing. This video is about when you've hit a wall or a plateau, or that time where you start to question, is this worth my time? Is the return on investment, is the return on time, energy, effort, is it really worth it anymore? And that's basically where I got last year. Like I just started looking at time audits, and directly or indirectly, I had too much time going towards social media. And I didn't want to be on social media all day. So the first thing I did was I systematized it through the use of AI, through some automation, VAs, and putting in place some like SOPs, some standard operating procedures. We were able to get the amount of time directly that I was spending on social media down substantially. I hit another plateau, and that was, it wasn't going to be sufficient to get 2, 3, 4 times the demand that I wanted to generate to hit the goals for my business. So after systematizing and getting the amount of time that I was directly spending on the platforms, I still made the decision. Paid media is something I want to experiment with. The first step in paid media for me was taking out some advertising in Justin Welsh's newsletter, The Saturday Solopreneur. Now, for me, it made complete sense because a segment of Justin's audience is exactly my audience. I work primarily with professionals, executives who want to package their expertise and turn it into an online business selling services, right? So take what they know and figure out how to productize that and market it and sell it online. And I know that because Justin has a massive audience of solopreneurs, a segment of those are going to be a perfect fit for me. Okay, so that was one thing that I thought about. Then the next question I had to kind of think about was, all right, what am I going to offer his audience? Now, I know that about 70% of my audience, 70% of my clients have gone through my digital course, the online client acquisition system. So what I did for Justin's newsletter for this ad was I took the course that I already had published, right? And I rebuilt it. I revamped the content, I added in new content, I refreshed a lot of things. Like I've worked with 100 entrepreneurs since I did the first course, so I had a lot of lessons to add in. So I rebuilt the course and we marketed it as the 2.0. The cool thing was, by doing this, what I had done was basically created an A/B test, because I had the 2.0 version of this course to compare with the results of the 1.0 version of this course. So for the 1.0 version of this course that had already been out in the public for about a year and a half, I already had some data, and that was driven exclusively from organic content marketing. The second version of this course that I rebuilt and I was going to put in the ad, I decided not to publish anywhere else. I just wanted to put it in Justin's newsletter. So I didn't even send it to my LinkedIn audience. I didn't send it to my email list. I only published it to his newsletter subscribers. So I was able to see what the results were going to be from 1.0 to 2.0. So how did it go? Well, in about 9 days, so that's 2 ads, and it's not even the full impact of 2 ads because his newsletter comes out every Saturday. But in 9 days, I had 1,300 people download the second version of that course that I was able to introduce myself to, that I was able to get a digital course, that I was able to get into my own marketing ecosystem. And that's pretty valuable. In the prior year and a half that I had been marketing the first version of my course, posting every single day, commenting. If you know, you know, right? Like the amount of work that goes into a year and a half of doing that, I had 1,100 people download my course. Now let that sink in. In 9 days, I was able to get 1,300 people to get access to my digital course. And it took me a year and a half of organic content marketing to get 1,100. I had an A/B test literally next to each other. Now, let me put that in perspective. If I spent just 10 hours a week writing content and commenting and doing everything else, the harvesting and starting chats, just 10 hours a week, and it was usually more, but if I just did 10 hours a week, that is 720 hours of my time that I invested to get 1,100 people to download my course. By pulling out a couple ads in Justin's newsletter, I was able to get 1,300 people. Now, I know the thing about ads is you've got to measure revenue. Okay, so how much of this turns into revenue remains to be seen, but I'll tell you this, we're already positive ROI on the ads themselves. We've had 100 calls booked from people that have downloaded the course, and I have not a shred of doubt that we're going to see some significant ROI on this from a revenue standpoint, but it takes a couple of months for all of our economics to work out. Now, again, I'm not saying organic content marketing isn't phenomenal. It is, and I've used it for years, and we've gotten great results from it, but at some point, you're going to want to ask yourself, is this the best strategy, or is this the only strategy that I should be employing? In other words, is this the best way to leverage my time? Now, a lot of people are going to tell you it is. A lot of those people are making money selling products and services to keep you in the organic content marketing systems, right? Like maybe they're selling content systems or ghostwriting or pods or automation or something. Now, my view is different businesses require different strategies at different times, which is why Repeatable Revenue, my company, we're agnostic as to which tool or channel or source of media that you're going to use to grow. We're just going to try to help you find the right one for you at the right time. So I'm not here to preach you've got to use paid media. And I'm not preaching that you've got to use Justin's newsletter. Although I did actually lock in my spots for the calendar year before hitting publish on this video to make sure I could get my spots in there. But what I am trying to preach is there's a time and place for organic content, right? Like in it helping you establish your ICP and get your messaging dialed in and really start to build your audience. There's a time and place for systems within your content, getting VAs, maybe getting some automation, getting some SOPs. And then there's a time and place to add in paid media to simply get more leverage on your time or drive more results or generate more demand without it requiring your sweat equity. So it's really up to you to determine where you're at in that cycle, right? Which season that you're at. But what I'll do is I'll give you some questions that I've used to help make that decision myself to determine if and when it's time to add in paid media to your arsenal. So the first question I would ask is your avatar or your ICP or your persona, whatever you want to call it, your target market, is that and your messaging really dialed in, okay? Because paid media is a really great way to scale your messaging. But if you don't know exactly who you're talking to and you don't know what their pain points are and you don't know their psychographics and you don't know how they make decisions, if you don't know all of that, then when you go to paid, you're possibly scaling the wrong message to the wrong audience. So I would get that dialed in first. The second question I would ask is, will doing more of the same thing give me the results that I really want, right? So Alex Hormozy talks a lot about, more, better, new. You want to ask yourself, could I just do more of the same thing? Like if you're posting once a day, Monday through Friday on LinkedIn, for example, would adding a second post get you the results that you really are looking for? Or just adding in, some weekend posts or something like that. So look at what's working today and ask yourself, could I simply do some more of what I know is already working before I try something completely different? The next question I would ask is, will doing better give me the same results, right? Just along the same lines of more, could I do better, right? Could I look at the content that I'm creating and actually just get better at copywriting, or start adding in some better CTAs, or start adding in better creative or different types of media? Could you do the same thing with the same level of effort, but actually just do it better and get your results? We've gone through that phase several times in my own business. So I know that you can drive more results by just looking at what you're doing and making improvements to that. Do I know the math that I need to have in order to do this right? Okay, so do you know the lifetime value of a client, right? Do you know what a client is worth to you? Do you know what you're willing to spend or what an appropriate level of investment would be to acquire a new client? If you don't know those things, it's possible you're just going to take a bunch of money and put it in a trash can and burn it. Okay, so before you go into paid, you want to take a step back and say, do I have the economics in place, and do I know what I'm looking for, what the targets are, or what the KPIs are going to be in order to know whether it was a win or a loss? All right, the next question I would ask is, Do I know how my clients really buy my services? I know from my experience that, again, 70% of my clients have downloaded or accessed or gone through my digital course. I also know that I've got different assets. I know the typical cycle that clients are going to go through most of the time. It's never a perfect line, but most of the time, the journey that they're going to go through before they make the investment. Very rarely is somebody just going to see you for the first time on social media and then say, hey, let me throw thousands of dollars at you. There's some level of authority that you have to build and credibility and trust. So do you know what that journey is like? In other words, do you know what assets you should be leading with, what you should be giving away, how you should be strategic with your paid media? If you don't, it's very possible you're going to end up wasting money while you're trying to learn that. And that's something that you can learn while you're doing organic content marketing. The next question I would ask is, am I ready for the tuition costs? In both time and energy, there's going to be a learning curve, right? Any strategy that's new is going to have a learning curve. Paid media especially, and you're paying for that. You're paying for that opportunity. It is literal tuition that you are going to pay. Do you have that runway? Are you prepared to lose a little bit of money as you get some initial data, as you get things dialed in, and as you experiment? In my case, the first ad that I did popped, but that was very targeted. It was a highly curated audience. So that helped me a lot. I wouldn't go into a paid ad strategy thinking the first one has to make it, right? Like I've got to get a 10x return on my first ad. Justin's strategy is one that I will stick with, but this year we're going to do more paid media. And I know going into some of those things, I'm going to lose a little bit of money and I'm going to lose some time as we learn those things. Now it's an investment. It's going to produce exponentially more down the road, but I have to be prepared mentally and financially going into that. And then I'd also ask, what's the right channel for you? Right? The right channel for you might be the channel that you are already creating content on, LinkedIn, for example, or if you're already creating content on X, or if you're already creating content on Facebook. It might be in your best interest just to stay in that channel. It might not. Some channels are better for opt-ins and cold audiences. Some channels are better for retargeting and taking people that already kind of know you and giving them some paid media to get them across the finish line of the journey. It depends. And there's no better data, in my view, to prove that than Justin's newsletter for me. That is indicative of finding the right channel with the right message at the right time. You want to look at your audience and think through, what is your version of that? What is the sweet spot that's going to help you maximize your ROI and the investment, both in terms of time and money that you're putting in? So I'm curious, where are you in the process? Is the next level of growth doing more or doing better? Or are you at a stage where you need to start systematizing some BAs and automation and some other tools and processes to help you remove yourself from the process? Or are you at a place where paid media is the next frontier for you? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, go ahead and hit subscribe for more videos on how to help you build your business. Adios.